So, NaLyssa Smith. It's just always the case. But, like, NaLyssa Smith never helps herself with some of the things that she says.
I forgot to mention, NaLyssa Smith is gone. If you're the Fever, how great do you feel about that? My goodness. Right, like, finally.
Did NaLyssa Smith just throw the Indiana Fever under the bus in a shocking turn of events? The former Fever star couldn't resist taking one last shot at her old team after being traded to Dallas. Next,
I got frustrated watching her play, and she represented, I think, the remnants of anything else that was wrong with the team, right? From the Christie Sides era and everything. And last year was a good year, all things considered. Wish her the best. But I actually think the Fever get great return here, considering I don't know where all these people think NaLyssa Smith's value was so high all of a sudden, given the way she played.
Interesting, while Smith plays the victim and fired off a parting shot that's raised eyebrows across the league, the Fever might have just pulled off the steal of the century. Sophie Cunningham is headed to Indy, and she's bringing a whole lot more than just her hot three-point range. Are you ready to dive into the drama and see why this trade could be a game-changer for the Fever? Let's go. Next voice.
Many people in the fan base don't want her on the team.
Remember when NaLyssa Smith burst onto the scene as the second overall pick in the 2022 WNBA draft? The Indiana Fever thought they'd struck gold, landing a player who could transform their franchise. But sometimes even the brightest stars can fade fast in this league. Let's rewind to those early days. Smith showed flashes of brilliance, averaging a solid 13 points and 8 rebounds per game in her first 2 seasons. Fever fans were buzzing with excitement, thinking they'd found their cornerstone player to build around for years to come. But then came the 2024 season, and something just wasn't right with Smith. It's like she hit a wall and her game took a nosedive that left everyone scratching their heads. Picture this: Smith, once a defensive force, now looking lost on the court. Easy layups that used to be automatic clanking off the rim, and don't even get me started on those free throws.
He goes to the wings, gets a fresh start. Hopefully that works out for her. Arike Ogunbowale has already welcomed NaLyssa Smith there. So that's part of this trade also. So you get these, a lot of moving parts here, because that's something a lot of people had anticipated and thought that the Fever were going to move on from Smith. And when Howard came in, it felt like, okay, Howard is taking her spot. And now Smith is no longer there to have a spot in the starting lineup or off the bench.
Then Coach Christie Sides couldn't even trust Smith, and crunch time, the player who was supposed to be the Fever's go-to option was riding the bench when the game was on the line. Talk about a fall from grace. Are you ready for some shocking stats? Smith's numbers tell a brutal story. Her scoring plummeted to just 10.6 points per game, while her rebounds dropped to a career-low 7.1 per game. But it wasn't just the raw numbers. Smith's efficiency fell off a cliff. She was missing shots at an alarming rate. And her defense, let's just say opposing players were licking their chops when they saw Smith guarding them. Next voice.
Ow! Oh, I'm sorry. You poked me in the eye. You're an 8-year-old. You did.
I did not poke you.
Did you do it on purpose?
I did not poke you in your eye.
Did you do it on purpose?
I got him the knee. That was my reflex.
It looked like you were just laughing.
On-court struggles mounted, so did the frustration from Fever fans. Social media was buzzing. And not in a good way. Smith found herself in the middle of some controversies that only added fuel to the fire. It's like everything that could go wrong for her did. Next voice.
Games, when you talk about championship levels, are won and lost in the margins, and so we've got to be great in the margins. We've got to grow in those areas.
Elephant in the room, the Fever's new direction with the arrival of Caitlin Clark and the emergence of Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hull. Indiana was shifting towards a more dynamic, versatile style of play. Smith, with her declining skills in questionable fit, suddenly looked like a square peg in a round hole. Think about it. The Fever needed players who could shoot, defend multiple positions, and keep up with the fast pace of modern WNBA basketball. Smith, once seen as the future, now looked like a relic of the past. Her struggles to adapt were painfully obvious, and it became clear that a change was needed.
I think we have a common goal. I think our visions are aligned. I think the way we go about our work is aligned, and it's consistent. And you're going to have consistency, and you need consistency.
The most important thing. You got to have somebody that can run up and down the floor and catch those passes. Caitlin's going to be.
Just 3 short years, NaLyssa Smith went from potential franchise cornerstone to a player the Fever couldn't wait to move on from, so the Fever gave up on Smith. But why it's all about the team's new winning formula, and let me tell you, it's a game-changer picture. This new head coach, Stephanie White, steps in with a vision that's about to turn the Fever's world upside down. We're talking fast-paced, versatile offense that'll make your head spin. Next,
rebounding, rim running with Howard. They had more shooting and two tough players, feisty players. One player who's going to have Caitlin Clark's back, of course, in Cunningham.
In Sophie Cunningham, the Indiana Fever are trading for a multi-dimensional wing, capable of knocking down the 3 ball.
Cunningham is starting to cook. Cunningham 3 is good. Cunningham from the corner,
locking down defenders.
Several deflections, and this time she gets the steal and the N1 opportunity.
And injecting passion and emotion into the game and into her team.
Interesting, Smith's slow-footed game and poor shooting, it stuck out like a sore thumb in this new plan. The Fever needed players who could run the floor, shoot threes, and switch on defense faster than you can say Bucket and Smith. Well, she just couldn't keep up. But that's not all. Of the front office didn't just dip their toes in the water with this new strategy. They dove in head first. They went all in, targeting players who could dance to the same beat as Caitlin Clark. We're talking about a high-octane game that'll leave opponents gasping for air.
Cunningham is a floor spacer and a deep shot maker. Each of her last 3 seasons, she's finished top 20 in the WNBA in threes made per minute on the floor among qualified players. And she will join a backcourt that features 2 of the top 5 3-point shot makers from a year ago, Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell.
This new philosophy left no room for one-dimensional players like Smith. The Fever's new direction.
Cam's last 4 seasons, she shot an impressive 38% from the 3-point line. And among players to hit at least 200 threes over that time, only 4 players in the entire league have shot it better from distance, one of those being Kelsey Mitchell. And Cunningham's ability to space the floor should give the Fever All-Star backcourt even more room to create on the drive than they had a year ago. Let's look at her defense, where in Phoenix, her versatility was on full display. Capable of guarding 1 through 4 in the lineup, she would defend star point guards one game, then be a small ball 4 the next night. As the Fever look to improve defensively from a season ago, her style fits Stephanie White's perfectly. Aggressive, in your face, and physical. Helps create turnover opportunities and fast break chances for her teammates, which underscores how she plays with an intensity and fiery passion matched by few. Throughout her career, Cunningham has had a knack for providing energy when her team needs it most. Cunningham is right in the heart of her prime, just 28 years old.